Kiyotaka Ayanokoji, the MC of this anime, enrolls in Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School, a prestigious institution known for its impressive college entry and post-graduation employment rates. However, little information is available regarding the specific details of this government-funded school. The high school is structured with a hierarchical system consisting of classes A through D, with Class A being the highest. When Kiyotaka Ayanokoji steps off the bus, he encounters another student who caught his attention. To his surprise, she happens to be in the same class. Meanwhile, one student in their class attempts to initiate introductions since the teacher has not yet arrived. Ayanokoji, feeling awkward, stumbles through his own introduction. Shortly after, Sei Chabashira, the homeroom teacher for Class 1D, clarifies that students are expected to remain on the school premises as everything they need is provided within. Instead of receiving money, each student is allocated 100,000 points at the start of every month, with each point equivalent to 1 yen. Chabashira emphasizes that everything within the school is determined by individual merit. During their daily activities, Kiyotaka coincidentally crosses paths with the same girl, Susan Horikita, who reluctantly reveals her name. The rest of their classmates form groups, leaving Kiyotaka and Susan as the quiet outsiders. Another classmate, Kikyo Kushida, who claims to be friendly with everyone, asks Kiyotaka to assist her in getting Susan to open up since he's the only one she communicates with. Kiyotaka suggests going to a cafe, but Susan quickly deduces Kushida's intentions and abruptly leaves. As the days go by, most of the class squanders their points on non-essential items and neglects their studies. However, on May 1st, they discover that no points are awarded to anyone, reflecting their lack of merit in their actions. While there is an opportunity to improve their ranks, Class D is already at the bottom, and failing another exam could lead to expulsion. Susan treats Kiyotaka to an expensive lunch, using it as leverage to gain his cooperation. She reveals her goal of climbing the ranks and ultimately reaching Class A in an attempt to form a study group. Kiyotaka approaches Ken Sudo, Kanji Ike, and Haruki Yamauchi, but they dismiss him without even considering his proposal. With limited options, he decides to seek help from Kushida and asks her to act as an intermediary. Kushida agrees, but with a condition that she be allowed to join the study group as well. Susan vehemently opposes Kushida's involvement, rejecting the idea before Kiyotaka can explain further. During their first study session, Sudo abruptly leaves when he refuses to cooperate with Susan, prioritizing his basketball aspirations instead. Meanwhile, Kiyotaka overhears a heated argument between Susan and her older brother, who is the student council president. He intervenes just in time to prevent her brother from physically attacking her. To Kiyotaka's surprise, her brother, Manabu, recognizes him as the student who consistently scores 50% on every test, including the entrance exams, which he dismisses as a mere coincidence. After Manabu leaves, Kiyotaka and Susan engage in a conversation where they exchange evasive responses to each other's inquiries. While Susan is determined to disband the study group, she becomes suspicious when she realizes that Class D, as a whole, performs better academically than some of the other first-year classes. She wonders what Kiyotaka did to influence these results. A few days earlier, Kiyotaka witnesses Sudo being harassed by 3 students from Class C who were aware of his potential expulsion. Just as the situation escalates, another student named Honami intervenes and threatens to report the instigators. Despite this incident, Sudo still refuses to study with Kiyotaka. In response, Kiyotaka approaches an older student from Class D and offers to pay them 10,000 points in exchange for copies of their first-year exams, eventually settling on 15,000 points and including a few quizzes as well. Kiyotaka requests Kushida to distribute the copies to the class while taking credit for it. Despite Kiyotaka's efforts, Sudo falls short of passing the exam by just 1 point. When their teacher, Chabashira, goes for a smoke break before meeting Sudo to discuss his expulsion, Kiyotaka follows her. He recalls Chabashira mentioning that everything at the school can be acquired through points. Kiyotaka offers to buy the additional mark needed for Sudo to pass, but the price is set at 100,000 points. Susan unexpectedly appears behind Kiyotaka and offers to split the cost, even though no student from Class D has ever managed to advance in the ranks before. They decide to celebrate their achievement in Kiyotaka's dormitory that night. When questioned about how he convinced the teacher to change her decision, Kiyotaka deflects the credit to Susan, causing her to become flustered while trying to explain. Meanwhile, Kushida accidentally leaves her phone in Kiyotaka's room. As he goes to return it, he witnesses Kushida venting her frustration by angrily kicking a railing and cursing Susan, revealing a deep animosity towards her. When Kushida notices Kiyotaka, she threatens to accuse him of sexual assault if he exposes her true personality. She immediately switches back to her usual cheerful demeanor after Kiyotaka agrees and claims she can trust him, leaving him to wonder if her friendly facade is all an act. Additionally, it is revealed that Honami, the representative from Class 1B, has garnered praise for her assistance in raising the class's test scores. Like Suzune, Honami also aspires to reach Class A in the ranking. Ayano Koji is still unsure about the sinister encounter with Kushida and the authenticity of her personality. While trapped in an elevator with her and Suzune, the uneasy atmosphere lingers. Before heading to class, Honami approaches them and warmly greets Kushida, while Suzune continues ahead and expresses her curiosity about whether Class D has received their points, as there seems to be a delay in their distribution. Later, Ayano Koji meets with Honami, who desperately asks him to pretend to be her boyfriend in order to reject someone who left a letter in her locker. However, when the person shows up, Ayano Koji claims they are just friends, leading to Honami apologizing for putting him in an awkward situation and expressing her gratitude for his help. The distribution of Class D's points is withheld due to an incident that occurred the previous day. Sudo was attacked by two teammates from the basketball team, and a student from Class C. Sudo insists it was an act of self-defense, but without a witness. Proving his innocence before the hearing scheduled for the following week seems challenging. Another month without points for Class D would be the consequence if they failed to prove Sudo's innocence. In an attempt to find witnesses, they post on message boards, but their progress is limited. Honami approaches Ayano Koji, Kushida, and Sudo's friends, initially raising suspicion. However, she assures him that she is merely returning the favor and joins them in the search for witnesses. One of Honami's classmates receives an anonymous tip regarding one of Sudo's assailants. While attempting to make an anonymous payment from Honami's phone, Ayano Koji notices her remarkably high balance, leaving him curious about how she acquired such a substantial amount. Ayano Koji discovers Kushida and Sudo's friends in his dorm, seemingly making copies of his room key. Suzune notices their presence after knocking on the door and nearly leaves before expressing her suspicions about Sakura, a girl in their class who has been acting strangely. The next day, they confront Sakura, who becomes panicked and denies having any knowledge, eventually fleeing and dropping her camera, which she is unable to turn on. Ayano Koji, accompanied by Kushida, Sakura, and the broken camera, goes to an electronics store to get it repaired. Ayano Koji realizes that he was brought along to provide his personal information when the store clerk asks Sakura to fill out a contact form. Ayano Koji's presence helps calm Sakura's anxieties. Back at his dorm, Kushida shows Ayano Koji pictures of an internet model whom they suspect to be Sakura. Ayano Koji also notices that Sakura's glasses are fake, which aligns with the new revelation. Suzune appears to be annoyed by his spending the day with them, although the reason behind her annoyance remains unclear. On that day, after their class, Manabu presides over the hearing regarding Sudo's case. The ruling favors Class C, as their injuries appear more severe than Sudo's. However, Ayano Koji compels Suzune to stand up and defend their classmate, calling Sakura as a witness. Despite presenting Sakura's photo as evidence, Class C's teacher remains obstinate. He attempts to reach a compromise, but Suzune staunchly refuses, firmly believing in Sudo's innocence and asserting that Class C's actions were premeditated. Following the hearing, Manabu emphasizes that one side must be lying, and if neither party can provide substantial evidence, he will make his decision the following day, which could lead to severe consequences, including expulsion. Later, Ayano Koji encounters Manabu and Sakura in the hallway, where Manabu assumes they had a plan and insinuates that Sakura's story was fabricated. Ayano Koji defends Sakura, expressing his belief in every word she said, leading to a tense moment where Manabu nearly strikes him, demanding proof. Ayano Koji skillfully evades the blow and simply states that Manabu will have to wait for the proof. Sakura discovers pictures of herself, seemingly taken by a stalker, in her mailbox, which causes her to break down in tears. Ayano Koji and Suzune realize that the staircase where the incident occurred lacks security cameras, making it one of the few blind spots in the school's surveillance system. They arrange a meeting with the three students from Class C, bluffing about having installed cameras in the stairwell. Claiming that the student council was testing them, they manage to pressure the three students into retracting their statements. Returning the dummy cameras he borrowed from Honami, Ayano Koji receives a distressing call from Sakura, who reveals that she is being pursued by the clerk from the electronics store, who turns out to be her stalker. Before Ayano Koji can take action, he and Hanami block the clerk's escape routes and contact the authorities. Meanwhile, Chapashira confronts Suzune on the rooftop, questioning how she managed to convince the Class C students to withdraw their statement. The teacher refuses to answer a question about Ayano Koji's hidden capabilities and instead warns her to be cautious of him, citing that D-Class is comprised of rejects. Meanwhile, Manabu congratulates Ayano Koji on his successful actions but attributes it all to Suzune's idea. Despite this, Manabu offers Ayano Koji a position as a secretary on the student council, but he declines the offer. Suzune appears, giving the impression that she overheard their conversation. Following their failed attempt to have Sudo expelled, the 3 students from Class C face punishment from their leader. He demands to know the identity of the person who tricked them. Meanwhile, one of the leaders from Class A encounters the Class C leader and vows to come after her as well, declaring that there can only be one ruler of the school. While walking together in the rain, Suzune confronts Ayano Koji and accuses him of orchestrating everything, questioning his motives. Ayano Koji dismisses her accusations in his usual manner, but Suzune persists, wanting to uncover his true identity. This prompts a flashback to Ayano Koji's childhood, where he is shown in some kind of institution witnessing another child's collapse. Ayano Koji tells Suzune that he will help her reach Class A if she refrains from prying into his personal life. During the summer vacation, Suzune continues to ignore Ayano Koji's phone calls, but eventually, she relents and agrees to go to the pool with him. The night before the field trip, Sudo, Kanji, Haruki, and their leader Hideo gather to discuss a plan to install cameras in the girls' changing room. On the day of the trip, Hideo observes the pool area from a window while communicating with the others via walkie-talkies and hand signals. Haruki disguises himself as a janitor and blocks off the area while the rest of them engage in a volleyball game. However, their plans are disrupted when Kakeru and his companions from Class A approach the changing rooms. Sudo confronts them to buy time for Kanji to escape. Ayano Koji, who is aware of the plan, receives a signal from Hideo and persuades Suzune to deliver a speech from the top diving board, emphasizing Class C's ambitions to climb the ranks and reach Class A. This attracts everyone's attention. Once Kanji has successfully escaped, Suzune retrieves the SD cards from the cameras, following Ayano Koji's instructions. In a playful act, Ayano Koji playfully pushes Suzune into the pool. Later, he sends Suzune a group photo, bringing a rare smile to her face as she collapses onto her bed. Chapashira meets with Ayano Koji and informs him that someone has contacted the school, demanding his immediate expulsion. However, she assures him that she will cover for him if he works towards reaching Class A. Initially refusing, Ayano Koji is compelled to comply when Chapashira reminds him of the consequences he'll face if he loses his freedom. During the field trip, which takes place on a luxury cruise ship, all the first-year students are supposed to stay in a boarding house on a nearby island. Ayano Koji and Suzune suspect that it's not merely a vacation and that there's more to the arrangement. Ryuen approaches Suzune, attempting to manipulate her regarding the bluff with the security cameras. When another Class C student, Ibuki, confronts him, she is intercepted by Ryuen's bodyguard, Albert. Sakura rehearses asking Ayano Koji out but is taken by surprise when he appears behind her. She quickly runs off flustered as Kushida notices their presence together. Ayano Koji attempts to leave, but Kushida stops him. She accuses him of being wary of her, and he doesn't deny it. Kushida then switches back to her previous demeanor and admits that she feels lonely. Ayano Koji simply mumbles a good night and walks away. Upon arriving at the island, the true purpose of the cruise is revealed. The students must survive for 1 week on a deserted island. Class 1D discusses their available resources and the rules of the test. They debate whether to use some of their initial 300 S points early on, as those points will be converted into class points at the end of the week, which will affect their class rankings. The class decides to prioritize finding a suitable place to set up camp. Meanwhile, Ayano Koji worries about Suzune and volunteers to scout ahead with Sakura. Konji, however, disappears while swinging through the trees. As Ayano Koji and Sakura continue down the path, they come across a cave, likely one of the landmarks mentioned by Chapashira. If the cave is occupied by a group leader, they obtain a bonus point that cannot be used during the test. Additionally, correctly guessing the leader of another group results in an extra 50 S points. However, an incorrect guess leads to a penalty equal to that value. If a class's leader is guessed, the class incurs a 50-point penalty and loses all bonus points acquired during the week. Ayano Koji stops Sakura from acting impulsively, covering her mouth and hiding behind a tree as Katsuragi and Tatsuka from Class A exit the cave. They confirm that the cave is occupied, and Sakura deduces that Katsuragi must be the leader based on him holding a key card. Class 1D settles on a spot near a river for their camp. The next task is selecting a leader, and Kushida suggests Suzune, to which everyone everyone agrees. In order to conceal Susan's identity, they decide to form a group around the console each time the leader needs to be renewed. While searching for resources, Ayano comes across an injured Ibuki and invites her to join their camp. Although hesitant at first, Ibuki is surprised by their willingness to help someone from Class C, as she expects them to see her as an enemy. The group's progress seems promising as they celebrate their achievements on the first day of the test. However, they receive news that Konji, who had disappeared earlier, managed to return to the ship. As a consequence, the class loses 30 S points, and the person who claims to be too ill to continue must remain on board. Ayano experiences another flashback where a faceless man tells him that having great power without utilizing it as an advantage is foolish. On the second day of the test, Ayano and Susan venture to the camps of other classes. They find that Class B's camp is organized similarly to theirs, and they encounter a member of Class C who claims to have been expelled from their camp. Class F fiercely guards the cave and refuses to grant them access to their operation. Class C, led by Ryuen and his followers, is found partying on a beach without any intention of spending the entire week on the island. Ayano notices a walkie-talkie on the table next to him and realizes that since they have spent all their points, they won't face any penalties for returning to the ship. On the third night, someone breaks into the girl's tent and searches Ibuki's bag in search of her cell phone. The following day, it is confirmed that Class C has departed from the island. On the fifth day, Karuizawa discovers that her underwear has been stolen, leading to a growing discord between the girls and boys. The girls demand a bag search, and Yamachi finds the stolen underwear in Ike's bag, passing it to Ayano to hide in his pocket. However, when the search turns up negative, they request a pat-down. During the pat-down, when the class representative, Yosuke, searches for Ayano he declares that the second search is negative, covering for him. Later, Yosuke confronts Ayano and confirms what happened, taking the stolen underwear himself as it belongs to his girlfriend and would be easier to explain. With the trust between the boys and girls shattered, they decide to separate the camp into two groups. The girls elect Yosuke to supervise the boys and move their tent. However, someone needs to keep an eye on Yosuke as well, and Susan chooses Ayano for this task. Ibuki asks Ayano who he thinks stole the underwear, as she is being suspected by everyone, but he expresses his trust in her. That night, Ayano expresses his concern about Susan's health, knowing that she has been sick throughout the entire trip. He even takes her temperature to monitor her condition. The next day, he asks Susan to show him the key card she possesses to confirm its appearance, since he has only seen one from a distance. However, upon seeing the card, Ayano is unsure if that card was the real one. Yamachi plays a prank on Susan by putting mud in her hair, but to everyone's surprise, Susan swiftly takes him down. She then goes to a nearby waterfall to wash off the mud. When she returns, she pulls Ayano aside and informs him that the key card has been stolen. Susan decides to stay behind while Ayano returns to the camp. After some time, Susan notices a pillar of smoke rising from the direction of the camp. It is discovered that the survival test manual has been set on fire, further exacerbating the tensions among the students. During the ensuing panic, Ibuki slips away, and Susan chases after her. Susan confronts Ibuki, accusing her of being the thief who stole the key card. As Susan goes to check Ibuki's bag, Ibuki suddenly attacks Susan and admits to being the thief. She knocks Susan unconscious and hands the key card to the student who requested it. Ibuki retrieves the buried walkie-talkie and contacts Katsuragi from Class A, informing him that they have recovered the key card. It is revealed that they are working together with Class C. Meanwhile, Ayano finds Susan and moves her to a sheltered area to protect her from the rain. On the final day, the classes gather on the beach to write down their guesses about the leaders of the other classes. Suddenly, Ryuen from Class C appears as the sole remaining member of his class. Katsuragi thanks him for assisting Class A in their victory, but Ryuen tells him to wait, as something interesting is about to unfold. Ryuen reveals that on the first day, Class C made a contract with Class A where they transferred 200 S points worth of goods to Class A and provided information about the leaders of Class B and D to Class A. Ryuen explains that he sent spies to the camps of Class B and D and spent the remaining 100 S points before the rest of Class C drop out, leaving him behind. Since Ibuki's camera broke, she had to physically retrieve the key card as proof. On the final day, Ryuen wrote down the names of the leaders, confident that his team would emerge victorious. However, when the results are revealed, everyone is shocked. Class C ends up in last place with 0 points, Class A takes third place with 120 points, Class B secures second place with 140 points, and the surprising winner is Class D with a total of 225 points. Suzu, after she regains consciousness, and confronts Ayanokoji about his actions. She accuses him of knowing that Ibuki was a spy from the beginning. He deliberately destroyed her digital camera to coerce her into stealing the key card and set the survival test manual on fire to create an opportunity for her to escape. Ayanokoji had observed Katsuragi on the first day with the key card and deduced that the leader was the only other person with him, given his cautious nature. After discovering the two-way radio, Ayanokoji realized that Ryuen had been on the island the entire time and must have been the leader of Class C. He chose not to investigate Class B's leader due to their alliance with Class A. Suzu is shocked and finds it hard to believe how Ayanokoji managed to pull off such a plan. She is unable to comprehend his motivation for helping her. However, before he can provide an explanation, Suzu is surrounded by their classmates who have been informed by Ayanokoji that it was all her idea, as per usual. Kushida expresses her frustration with not having a hidden side and assumes that Ayanokoji would choose Suzu over her. Ayanokoji's response doesn't provide any clear insight into his thoughts. He then meets with their teacher, who commends him for his actions. She reveals that it was his father who requested his expulsion, but mentioned that he would eventually leave the school voluntarily. Suzu confronts Ayanokoji, flustered by his actions. She considers him an ally, but he appears distant and indifferent. Ayanokoji confesses that he doesn't consider Suzu or anyone else as an ally. Ayanokoji delivers his final speech. "I'm here to win, and nothing else matters," Ayanokoji declares, his voice sending shivers down the spines of those around him. His eyes gleam with a cold determination, piercing through the hearts of his listeners. "I don't care what I have to do or what I have to sacrifice. People are nothing more than mere tools to achieve my goals."
The students make their way back to the cruise ship, only to realize that their vacation hasn't truly begun yet. Surprisingly, there is a second special test awaiting them on the ship itself. To organize the students, they are divided into groups named after planets. There are a total of 8 groups, each consisting of 14 students, with a combination of 3 students from classes A and B and 4 from classes C and D. The test spans across 3 days, and on the first day, one student is selected as the VIP within each group. The groups convene twice daily to discuss the identity of their VIP and plan their approach. The test presents 4 possible scenarios. Case 1. If everyone outside the VIP's class correctly guesses the VIP's identity, each student receives 500,000 private points, with the VIP receiving an additional 500,000 points as a bonus. Case 2. If anyone, excluding the VIP's classmates, guesses incorrectly, the VIP receives 500,000 points. Even if the VIP's identity is exposed, the final 2 cases still come into play. Case 3. If someone correctly guesses the VIP's identity, they receive 500,000 points, and their class obtains 50 points. However, if the student guessing correctly belongs to the same class as the VIP, the test continues. Case 4. If an incorrect answer is submitted, the VIP's class loses 50 points, while the VIP gains 500,000 points, along with their class receiving 50 points. On the first day, Ayanokoji and Suzu exchange their emails, confirming that neither of them is the VIP. Ryuen suddenly appears and begins interrogating Suzu, still convinced that she is the mastermind behind Class D. Despite Suzu denying being a VIP, Ryuen threatens Class D, boasting that he will uncover the identities of all the VIPs. Tensions rise during the initial meeting of Team Mars, which includes Ayanokoji. While attempting to reach a consensus, the idea of aiming for Case 1 is suggested, but Class A refuses to cooperate, declaring their intention to remain silent throughout the test. After the meeting, Ayanokoji overhears 3 students from Class C harassing Kei. They accuse her of being involved in an altercation with one of their classmates and demand an apology. Kei defends herself, vehemently denying any involvement and expressing confusion about the situation. Clearly shaken by the confrontation, she later breaks down in tears while showering. Ayanokoji gathers his classmates to discuss the identity of VIP, but before they can devise a strategy, Konji successfully guesses the VIP from the Saturn group. While the others consider it premature speculation, Konji continues his trend of making quick progress and finishing tasks early to maximize his vacation time. That evening, Ayanokoji seeks Suzune's opinion on Kei and whether they can leverage her position in Class D to their advantage. However, Ryuen interrupts their conversation. It turns out he has already gained possession of his classmates' cell phones, along with the upper hand in the game. Despite this rule violation, he is able to check which students received the VIP email. Suzune rejects his offer to unite the other three classes against Class A, disgusted by his unsettling demeanor. While making his way back to his cabin, Ayanokoji notices Kei in distress, pleading with Hirata to shield her from Shiho and other bullies from Class C. Hirata agrees but suggests that Kei should apologize and emphasize that their relationship is purely for appearances, a transactional arrangement. This response only frustrates Kei, leading her to break off their fake relationship and accuse Hirata of not truly caring about her. Ayanokoji approaches Hirata and confirms his suspicion that Kei has a history of being a victim of bullying, especially after witnessing her storm off in distress. Despite several more days of impasse during the group meetings, Ayanokoji and Yukimura closely trail the three girls who had been bullying Kei. The girls confront Kei, cornering her with no intention of relenting, while Ayanokoji chooses not to intervene. As the situation escalates and the girls become physically aggressive, pushing Kei to her breaking point, Yukimura attempts to help, but ends up on the receiving end of Kei's frustration, all observed by Ayanokoji. On the third day, Shiho and her accomplices lead Kei to a secluded area of the ship. Overwhelmed, he experiences a panic attack, and Shiho deduces that she must have been a victim of bullying before. Shiho coerces Riko into repeatedly hitting Kei, with Ayanokoji silently observing the encounter, aware of its occurrence. Once the girls leave and Kei breaks down, Ayanokoji approaches her, capitalizing on her vulnerability. Upon discovering a cut on her chest, he promises to protect her in exchange for her assistance in uniting Class D to secure victory in the exam. Before the final meeting, Hanami and Ayanokoji have a conversation about their goal of reaching Class A, despite being in separate classes. Hanami reveals that they can both achieve it by accumulating points. Specifically, a modest 20 million points would suffice. Ayanokoji admits to seeing Honami's total points while handling her phone. During the final meeting, it is decided that everyone must present the email they received as proof that they are not the VIP. Despite the possibility of someone guessing the VIP's identity first, each person complies, one after another. However, the unexpected happens when Yukimura hesitates and confesses to being the VIP, urging everyone to keep it quiet until the test concludes. Hanami, suspicious of Yukimura's claim, decides to call Ayanokoji's number, revealing that he had swapped phones with Yukimura. This implies that Ayanokoji is the actual VIP and showcases his clever maneuver. Kei and Ayanokoji then discuss their true plan, which involved identifying Kei as the VIP. Ayanokoji suggests exchanging not just phones, but also SNM cards, which he obtained from Sei. Consequently, Ayanokoji swaps Kei's phone with Yukimura's. Hanami explains that she was aware of their scheme, but chose not to disclose it due to their connection with Class D. Ryuen appears briefly, exposing a false claim made by a Class D student that Kikyo was one of the VIPs, and then departs after issuing another threat to Suzune and Class D. It is revealed that the VIPs were selected based on the order of their names in the hiragana scripture and their associated planet groups, which allowed Class C to deduce the identities of the VIPs. Back at school, the next test is announced as a 13-event sports festival with a Team Red versus Team White theme. Team Red consists of Classes A and D, while Team White consists of Classes B and C. The sports festival presents various advantages, such as the top 3 placements earning 1,000 points or bonuses on their written exams. However, there are also drawbacks, as the bottom 10 placements will lose bonuses on their written exams. Each class has the freedom to choose who participates in the activities. Ayanokoji and Suzune discuss how the sports festival differs from the previous special examinations due to its intense preparation. Suzune suggests cheating as a means to win, while Ayanokoji believes that they can achieve victory through regular means without resorting to unfair tactics. Later, the class decides to select participants based on talent or voluntary participation. Suzune recommends pairing stronger and weaker students to increase their chances of winning, although this approach carries the risk of the weaker students missing out on recognition. Kei strongly opposes Suzune's proposition, pointing out that Suzune looks down on everyone and fails to foster unity within the class. Seeking advice, Kei turns to Kikyo, who suggests combining both perspectives, and the class ultimately agrees. However, Suzune further upsets the class by labeling them as incompetent. Hirata resolves the conflict by conducting a class poll to determine which concept is better, with Kei's viewpoint gaining majority support. Later, Kei and Ayanokoji discuss how he instructed her to challenge Suzune's plans and seek Kikyo's perspective. Ayanokoji hints at the presence of a traitor within Class D, but refuses to provide further details. As the class prepares for the sports festival, Suzune engages in an argument with a student still harboring resentment over losing the vote. Ayanokoji wonders why Suzune can't find a middle ground and deduces from a three-legged race that she struggles to acknowledge her own weaknesses and projects her disappointment onto others. Ayanokoji confides in Suzune, expressing his belief that Kikyo is the one betraying the class. He invites Suzune to spy on Team White, where she openly questions whether Kikyo leaked information, which Kikyo denies. As the sports festival commences, Sudo inspires Class D to maintain high morale. However, Ryuen defeats Sudo in the topple-the-pole event, resulting in Team Red's loss. Matters worsen when Suzune gets injured after colliding with a student from Class C. Kei and Ayanokoji suspect that the traitor within Class D revealed the participation list to Ryuen, leading to the targeted attacks on Sudo and Suzune. Ayanokoji feels that he never intended for the class to win the sports festival and believes that doing nothing is the best course of action. However, Sudo, deeply upset by being targeted, lashes out at Hirata and then runs away, significantly damaging class morale. Ayanokoji instructs Suzune to convince Sudo to rejoin the class and to utilize him as her own weapon, just as he uses Suzune. During a brief break, Kei and Hirata inquire about the identity of the traitor, and Ayanokoji responds by stating that it was Suzune's idea to submit the leaked list. Later, Kikyo persuades Suzune to visit the doctor, unaware that Ryuen is waiting for her. Ryuen accuses Suzune of deliberately injuring one of his classmates and demands 1 million private points in exchange for his silence. Suzune initially thinks it's a bluff. Ryuen insists on the points and demands that Suzune grovel, giving her until the end of the festival to comply. In the hallway, Suzune encounters her brother and admits that she recognizes her own inadequacies and will no longer trouble him. Meanwhile, as Suzune tries to persuade Sudo to return, he reveals that he participated in the festival to prove to the class that he is not useless. Suzune urges him not to give up, as doing so would only confirm their negative perception of him. Simultaneously, Ayanokoji confronts Kikyo about being the traitor before the break comes to an end. Kikyo denies the accusation and questions why Ayanokoji didn't update the leaked list if he was aware of her involvement, as she believes it would have caused confusion between the classes. Finally, Kikyo admits to leaking the list and selling her knowledge of the VIPs to Ryuen in an attempt to have Suzune and Ayanokoji expelled. Suzune makes another attempt to persuade Sudo, highlighting their shared desire for recognition from others. She admits to seeking approval from her brother and isolating herself from others. After her experiences with Class D, she realizes the importance of friendship and support. Sudo begins to see their similarities and ultimately agrees to return to the festival, apologizing for his previous behavior. However, due to their injuries, Suzune and another student are unable to participate in the final event. Kikyo and Ayanokoji step in as replacements. Prior to the last event, a relay race, Manabu and Ayanokoji discuss the future of Class D. Manabu engages in a race with Ayanokoji to learn more about him. Despite being in the lead, Manabu waits for Ayanokoji to touch the baton, and they both sprint forward, astonishing the school as Manabu nearly surpasses the student council president. Suzune meets with Ryuen, accompanied by Kikyo, to deliver her response. Suzune confronts Kikyo about being the traitor and urges her to drop the facade of innocence. Kikyo admits to her betrayal and reveals her plan to remove Suzune by any means necessary and eliminate anyone aware of her past. Ryuen admits to having Kikyo provide the leaked list and instructing Saki to harm Suzune and feign serious injuries. Refusing to be blackmailed, Suzune unveils that she has been recording the entire conversation. However, Ryuen reveals that he has also been recording the encounter. Suddenly, Ryuen receives an anonymous email containing a tape of himself urging Saki to harm Suzune. He commends Suzune and the mastermind of Class T for anticipating their every move, deciding to back off for the time being. After Manabu announces his resignation as president of the student council, Maya Sato gathers her courage and timidly asks Ayanokoji for his phone number, implying that she has developed a romantic interest in him. Despite their last-place finish in the sports festival, none of the students face expulsion, much to the delight light of Ms. Chabashira. It is the first time she hasn't lost a student in such a situation. Ms. Chabashira proceeds to inform the students about their upcoming special test, which will serve as their final exam. It is called the paper shuffle. In this test, students will be paired up, and each pair must collectively earn more than 60 points. Even if one student scores 0 and the other scores 60, the pair will still pass. However, if they fail to reach the minimum threshold, both students will be expelled. To determine the pairs, a mini-test will be conducted, and there will be a required point threshold for the total scores across all the topics. In the upcoming paper shuffle test, each class will be responsible for creating exam questions that will be answered by one of the other 3 classes. The class that created the questions can request another class to take the test, but in case of duplicate requests, a lottery will be held to determine the final arrangement. The requesting class and the class taking the test will compete, and the class with the higher score will steal 50 class points from the other. It is strictly emphasized that cheating will result in immediate expulsion. Suzu reveals that Kikyo attended the same middle school, and there are rumors suggesting that a single female student, suspected to be Kikyo, triggered an event that almost destroyed the class. Ayano Koji advises Suzune to expel Kikyo, but Suzune believes that she can potentially turn Kikyo into an ally. Meanwhile, Ryuen threatens his class, attempting to identify the class spy, Shiho. However, he changes his approach when he learns that Shiho was simply manipulated by the real mastermind. Ayano Koji and Suzune, along with the rest of the students, come together to devise a strategy for the mini-test. The plan involves intentionally failing the mini-test to ensure that the highest-scoring students are paired with the lowest-scoring ones. Later that night, Kei and Ayano Koji discuss the circumstances surrounding Maya's invitation, and Ayano Koji vows to protect Kei no matter what. The students agree to Suzume's plan for the mini-test, and the next day, Ayano Koji finds himself partnered with Maya for the paper shuffle test. During Yukimura's study session, the students urge Ayano Koji to stop holding back, considering his impressive performance in the previous sports festival. Ayano Koji suggests that they should be prepared for any malicious tactics the other classes may employ during the test. He also mentions the possibility of the school having mechanisms in place to mediate the questions. Later that day, Ayano Koji shares this information with Suzume as they contemplate keeping an eye on Kikyo. Ayano Koji then receives an email from Ryuen, who is curious about the mastermind behind Class D. Suzume arranges a meeting with Kikyo in private. The two of them make a wager on the paper shuffle math exam. If Suzume scores higher, Kikyo will stop bothering her. But if Kikyo wins, Suzume will face expulsion. To ensure the legitimacy of the bet, Suzume has her brother witness the arrangement. Kikyo suspects that Ayano Koji is listening in on their conversation and invites him to meet. During the rendezvous, Kikyo adds another condition to their bet. If she wins, Ayano Koji will be expelled as well. Ayano Koji accepts the condition but expresses his desire to learn more about Kikyo's background, as he suspects that both he and Suzume are aware of it. Kikyo reveals that she was once praised as a top achiever and craved attention and recognition. However, the constant pressure to maintain that image took a toll on her mental health. In an attempt to retain the attention of others, she started a personal blog where she gossiped about her classmates. When her friends discovered the blog, they rejected her. Exhausted from pretending to be someone she wasn't, Kikyo eventually revealed all the nasty secrets she had learned, leading to a division within her class. Kikyo hints that she possesses incriminating information about certain students from Class D being praised, and having knowledge of others' dark secrets excites her to the point where she considers resorting to desperate measures, becoming a monster driven by the hunger for attention. Ryuen learns about Kikyo's wager, in which she agreed to allow Class C to win the paper shuffle test in exchange for the expulsion of Suzume and Ayano Koji. Meanwhile, Ryuen interrupts Ayano Koji's study session, subtly questioning him about the email he received in search of the genius behind Class D. Later that night, Ayano Koji contacts Kei and asks her to play a key role in the paper shuffle test. The next day, Kei confronts Kikyo, pointing out how she pushes everyone without caring about their failures. Kai accidentally spills a drink on Kikyo's uniform, but insists on paying for the cleaning. Kikyo offers to submit the exam questions and requests Ms. Chabashira to delete any additional copies from Class D. Subsequently, Kikyo provides the questions to Ryuen as per their agreement. Finally, the day of the test arrives, and Kikyo is taken aback when she reaches the math section. She confronts Ryuen, furious that he did not uphold his end of the bargain. However, Ryuen realizes that Suzume saw through their plan all along. It is revealed that Suzume requested that Ms. Chabashira only accept exam questions from her and dismiss all others. Ryuen discovers a cheat sheet on Kikyo's uniform, indicating that he betrayed her, providing his class's copy of the questions to the mastermind behind Class D. Kikyo agrees to fulfill her part of the bargain with Ryuen, but warns Ayanokoji that she never promised to leave him alone. Ryuen becomes even more determined to uncover the identity of the mastermind after facing repeated obstacles. He targets Kei as a means to lure the mastermind out of hiding. Following day, several Class D students are provoked by Class C, and Suzume observes that Ryuen is orchestrating this situation to exploit the mastermind. Ayanokoji is led to a reception area where his father, whom he hasn't seen in over a year and a half, is waiting for him. His father claims that their butler committed himself after being dismissed for assisting Ayanokoji with his school enrollment. Ayanokoji left his family to pursue his dreams and live independently, which goes against his father's wishes. To make matters worse, his father demands that Ayanokoji sign a school withdrawal form and return to the White Room. At that moment, Mr. Sakayanagi, the school's chairman, intervenes. He states that he recommended Ayanokoji's enrollment in the school and that no one has the authority to force a student's withdrawal. This prompts Ayanokoji's father to back down. After the incident with his father, Ayanokoji confronts Ms. Chabashira, expressing his disappointment and accusing her of using him to gain access to Class A. He reveals that she lied about knowing his father. Later that night, Ayanokoji apologizes to Kei for manipulating her and confesses that he will abandon his ambition to advance from Class D to Class A. He decides to leave that goal to Suzume and Hirata. Ayanokoji states that this will be their final conversation. Ryuen intrudes on Class D, causing Konji to leave. Ryuen and his followers follow him. In the courtyard, more Class C students confront Konji, and Ryuen provokes him by damaging Konji's belongings. Arisu and other Class A officers arrive and witness the unfolding brawl. Konji tries to defuse the situation by declaring his disinterest in the inter-class battle and asserting his freedom to do as he pleases. Ryuen eventually calms down, but Arisu starts taunting him. As everyone disperses, Ryuen threatens Suzume in Class D, proclaiming that his hunt for the mastermind is nearing its conclusion. Ryuen devises a plan to catch the mastermind, using Kei as bait. He entices her to a secluded location and ties her up. He pressures Kei to reveal the identity of the mastermind or risk having her previous bullying incidents exposed to damage her reputation. He continues to defend Ayanokoji and manages to persuade Ryuen to release her by pointing out his vulnerability and exploiting people to achieve his goals. However, Ryuen begins tormenting her upon hearing this revelation. Kei maintains her composure and asserts that there is no mastermind behind Class D. Meanwhile, Ayanokoji agrees to join his new friends for a karaoke outing. However, he abandons the plan and approaches Ms. Chabashira instead. He pleads with her to intervene and prevent Ryuen from causing harm to Kei, emphasizing that it is necessary for Class D to advance. Ms. Chabashira agrees when Ayanokoji enlists Manabu's assistance in dealing with Ryuen, with the condition that Suzume enters the student council. Ayanokoji finally comes to Kei's aid and reveals himself as the mastermind. Ryuen threatens Ayanokoji and orders his subordinates to attack. However, Ayanokoji quickly disposes of Ryuen's lackeys, surprising both Ryuen and Kei. Ayanokoji confidently declares that he orchestrated the entire conflict, outwitting Ryuen. Ibuki takes a shot at Ayanokoji, but is swiftly incapacitated. A full-fledged battle ensues between Ryuen and Ayanokoji, with both teasing each other about who will emerge victorious. Ayanokoji remains calm and unwavering, asserting that he has already won. However, Ryuen's ideology is rooted in the belief that violence represents true power, and he continues his assault. Ayanokoji responds to Ryuen's claim of never feeling fear by asserting that he himself doesn't feel anything. Once he gains control of the situation, he unleashes a brutal assault on Ryuen's face, instilling fear and terror in him. Despite Ryuen's earlier insistence that he has never felt fear, Ayanokoji's actions prove otherwise. After subduing Ryuen, Ayanokoji rushes to console Kei, reaffirming his promise to protect her no matter what. He explains that everything went according to his plan, and now she needs him even more. Ryuen begins to reconsider his choices after his defeat at the hands of Ayanokoji, which Ibuki disapproves of, as it indicates his submission. Kei is surprised to find that her feelings for Ayanokoji have grown stronger. Maya informs Kei that she plans to confess her feelings to Ayanokoji in 2 days, on Christmas, leaving Kei confused about her own emotions toward him. Later that night, Ayanokaji calls Katie and asks about Maya's interests, further adding to Kei's confusion and uncertainty. The following day, Ayanokaji informs Suzume that her brother wants her to join the student council, believing it would benefit her overall. He encourages her to consider the opportunity. Later that day, Ayanokaji and Ryuen have a meeting where they discuss how Ayanokaji saved Ryuen by taking responsibility for the gymnasium kidnapping incident. Ayanokaji predicts that Class D will eventually reach Class C, but will then be downgraded again after he achieves his goal of expelling Kikyo in the next term. On Christmas Day, Ayanokaji meets Maya, with Kei and Hirata joining them for a double date. After Kei and Hirata leave, Maya confesses her feelings to Ayanokaji, but he rejects her, explaining that he has never had feelings for anyone. Kei watches the scene unfold from the bushes and questions Ayanokaji if he sees everyone as tools. He neither confirms nor denies it. Kei offers him a gift, and Ayanokaji reciprocates by giving her cold medicine. As they walk back, he addresses her by her given name for the first time and ponders whether he will ever stop viewing others as mere pawns. As Kai and Ayanokaji part ways, Arizu approaches him and reveals that she knows him from the White Room. She declares her intention to take him down, to which Ayanokaji responds with a nonchalant attitude, expressing his curiosity to see her try.